Next up is Kim Hansen from Signal FM.
All right, how you all doing? Good? Yes? All right, I'm Kim Hansen. I'm the CEO and a co-founder at Signal FM. Signal FM is social media interface for podcast. It's also an experienced full-stack team with a shared history of success. So most recently, we've joined the Matter Accelerator down in San Francisco, founded by Google and the Wall Street Journal. By doing that, we've gained access to dozens of top podcasts and tens of millions of listeners. So, who here is a podcast listener? Hence, what's your favorite podcast? This American Life. First Day Back. Never heard of it. I'll have to listen to it. So then you guys will all know the pain of trying to share a podcast, right? So you're in your car and you're listening to the podcast and your favorite podcast player, and you hear something that your friend Joe would love. And so you say, I gotta share this with Joe. But first of all, how do you share it with Joe? And second of all, even if you do figure it out, Joe's gonna get hit in the face with a big stupid MP3, and he's probably not gonna listen, right? The truth of the matter is that we all want podcasts to be a more social experience, but we listen to them while we're in our car or walking our dog. They're an inherently time-shifted media. How do you turn a time-shifted medium into a social experience? Well, it starts with transcripts. So, we're back in our car, and this time we're listening to the podcast in the Signal FM transcription player, where we have married podcast audio to transcripts so that the words that I am saying play as I am saying them. So, oh my God, Joe's got to hear this. Get out of your car, go into your house. What was I listening to again? Okay, just look at the transcript. Okay, there's a clip, tweet it out. Joe sees it, reads and listens. Okay, yeah, I do actually want to hear more about this. Click, and Joe is right back in our player where he can listen to the full podcast episode and share out clips just the way you just did. Our player makes podcast audio social for the first time. Our transcripts expand, reach, and grow market for our podcasters. Today, podcasters rely on hyper-targeted ads and word of mouth to grow their audiences. Signal FM turns that on its head by exposing their content directly to search engines like Google and Bing, and giving their listeners access to these great shareable videos, which are proven to be more than 200% more effective than text alone. Where do we get the transcripts from? Well, we get machines to generate them, and then we expose them to audiences for correction. One of our first podcast partners, Scott Hanselman, a couple years ago, got his listeners to transcribe more than 30 hours of audio for him. West Wing Weekly is doing a similar experiment right now. By exposing this content to audiences, we can take their corrections and feed them back up into the neural nets, so our transcriptions get better and better and better. By crowdsourcing, we have access to cheap, good transcripts in a world where Amazon and Microsoft and similar guys are paying tens of millions of dollars for good transcripts. Our transcripts enable monetization. Today, less than 10% of podcasts is monetized at all due to a very fractured software market. Signal FM enables monetization by doing two things: proving enormous value to our podcast partners through our transcripts, becoming the player of reference. Two, we monetize that value by providing an excellent software solution for monetization. Where are we as a company? So way back in July, we formed up the team and started product ideation. Today, we have an alpha with more than 100,000 listeners. By the end of the year, we will explode that to 500,000 listeners and have a great correction and transcription experience. I do what I say. So as promised, I came back here with a couple of podcast partners in our pocket. Today, the Hansel Minutes podcast and the Run As Radio podcast are using us in their promotion pipeline. All right, so we've already finished our seed round. We're into a bridge round, and we're working with two existing investors to get them in. We'll use the funds to develop the product and to grow up the team towards our big product launch for Demo Day in October. If you'd like to see more, you can drop me a line. I'm Kim at Signal FM. My cards are back on the table there. or come see me for a demo. Thank you so much.
Hi, Kim. Thank you very much.
Hi.
That was excellent. So my name is Steve Hord, and I led the due diligence round on Signal FM. So I think in working with Kim and her team, I think one of the things we discovered sort of right away was that it's really a pretty well-balanced and pretty strong product development team. So a deep background in sort of game development and software development as a whole. And I would say one thing that came out pretty quickly really was the team was talented, and it was really quite likely to complete the task, right? They're gonna get the product across the line. The second thing we looked at was the market as a whole, and there's no question that the market is looking for better solutions. So it's a young, immature market. I think we would all acknowledge that. But there's an opportunity for technology to sort of unlock quite a bit of value here. I don't know if anybody gets a chance to see This American Life, but basically they are doing many of the things that Kim's team and product will do today, kind of in a bespoke, kind of hand-done sort of way. You can see them sort of almost asking for this product to be made. Advertisers, without a doubt, are interested in podcasts. So we spoke with a number of podcast listeners, but also quite a few podcast developers or authors, and at least one person who develops or sells advertising to the podcasters. And there's no question that the advertisers are interested in it. It's a young, podcasting audience is relatively young. It's a great demographic. They're very engaged with the podcast. People tend to be very passionate about their podcasts in a way that I don't think regular TV audience or a lot of other media consuming audiences are quite that passionate. But without a doubt, it's early in the market. And I think we had a definite sense in talking to those folks that the advertising dollars will come, but they're going to come really as the tools to sort of track the advertising and track the metrics develop as well. And so very much part of what Signal is up to. So without a doubt, I think Signal FM is definitely, it's an early investment opportunity, but it's a pre-growth opportunity. So although, we see some challenges, with the size of the industry today, it's an opportunity to make an investment that is, with lots of upside is what I would kind of say. So how are we doing on time? Excellent. So I think one of the things we really had some challenges with and we really wanted Kim to address was sort of that, what we'll call TAM, that sort of total market size. So both what is the total market size and then what part of that do you think that Signal FM will have an opportunity to capture?
So we've always planned for multiple revenue models. Let's talk about three. We're talking about listener-supported content, we're talking about analytics, and we're talking about ads. So even in our immature market today, we've proven that between 2 and 10% of listeners will support their podcasts financially if given the opportunity. And there are going to be more than 73 million podcast listeners in this country in the next 3 years. We're going to have a big chunk of that market. With analytics, right now, the biggest problem that podcasters have is proving that their audiences are very loyal. So what we can do with our analytics is both bring in ad partners, really prove out the value of that relationship. We also can start to look exactly at what that relationship looks like. So we know not only what podcasts are saying, but how they're saying it through semantic analysis, who they're talking to, and how they're reacting. So yes, it's a burgeoning market.
A growing market.
A growing market. But software is going to help it get us there, and we're that software.
Excellent. So I think one of the other challenges is, one of the things in doing the due diligence we talked about is that you're based on the IBM Watson engine and I think the Microsoft speech-to-text engines. So I think we had some questions around what keeps someone else from doing this. So where is the moat, right? How do we defend against interlopers?
Right. Well, this isn't just a transcription engine, right? As we've discussed, this is a social ecosystem. And if we look at what Google does with social ecosystems, we all kind of know how that ends up, right? My background is in video games. The first 2 games that I ship are the highest rated video games of all time. I know how to make fun software. I know how to make good social software. And that's the key component of what will make Signal FM a great social experience.
Awesome. And I think we're just about out of time. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
So we have some great sponsors that are providing some support for the entrepreneurs. We want to get more entrepreneurs to be successful enough to be angel investors so that we amplify the cycle.